I'll be brief in my discussion today, as you can, I think, start to smell the lasagna warming up. The chocolate doesn't make the same aroma unless you put it really close to you, but both are awaiting us. I know that it'll be most likely inside. People will be welcome to come to the Sukkah just to dwell in it for a few moments, assuming it's not pouring, but the main food and everything will be inside so we can enjoy it in much more comfort, as actually the comfort and joy are in some ways even more important than the Sukkah. The Sukkah is a symbol, it's an important symbol, and I'll discuss that a little bit. We're used to rags to riches stories. They uplift us and say, if you do a lot of work, things will come to you. But there are also riches to rag stories, which can be just as enlightening to us and recognizing to us that life is transitory. And also on Sukkot, we all in some ways become riches to rags. We all become housing insecure, moving into the Sukkah. But we do so and find joy. So what is the most famous or sort of known riches to rags story? I actually Googled it and came up with the story of the Vanderbilt family. Cornelius Vanderbilt, you heard the name before, began actually working for his dad's ferry company at the age of 11. So he dropped out of school and he was able to watch what his dad did, and he clearly had a business sense. So by the age of 16, he owned his own ferry company, which worked actually with a bigger company, so he knew how bigger companies operated. But he also was smart to know it's about the job to be done and not about the industry. So the ferry was moving goods around the country using boats. But where were the raw materials, as anyone who studied the Industrial Revolution? In the interior of the country. And yes, canals were being built, but there was a new technology out there, namely the steam locomotive. And so he invested in railroads. In 1863, he bought the Harlem Railroad, which all it did at that time was go from lower Manhattan up into Harlem and I think into the Bronx at the time. And from that, by 1877, basically the entire Reconstruction period, he was now the richest man in the world investing in the railroad company. We know about the Vanderbilt Railroad. His son took over, so Cornelius died in 1877. His son William only lived 8 more years, but was able to double the family wealth by the time he died in 1885. And so William had a whole bunch of children and grandchildren, and they now had this fortune. But they still weren't, the top echelon of Fifth Avenue. And so they wanted to compete with that. And each part of the family took their part of their money and all built mansions. There were 10 mansions on Fifth Avenue and several obviously around the country. Well, you build a mansion, you have to maintain it. So you need a large staff. You need to pay that staff. And if you're not going to build on that wealth or keep the maintaining of the wealth, you're just going to keep spending it and spending it and spending it. By 1947, obviously with the decline of the railroad as well, the Vanderbilt wealth had basically gone to nothing. The 10 mansions on Fifth Avenue had to be liquidated and destroyed. And actually, this wasn't on the website, but my daughters, my family, my family has a house in Jamestown, Rhode Island, right next to Newport. The one mansion that maintains from the Vanderbilt family is the Breakers in Newport. So you can go and visit that. But what is the lesson of this riches to rags story? Well, the website that I found was actually teaching children about wealth management, said that there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. Rich is just having the money. Wealthy is about managing your wealth and managing the riches and making sure that it perhaps grows or at least is maintained. But obviously, I'm telling the story today about Sukkot, because again, we go to be housing insecure. And we have to learn the idea of Ezehu Ashir. Who is the rich one? Hasameach b'chalko, one who is happy with their lot. Us rabbis like to complain a little bit that we had Yom Kippur on Monday. It was beautiful. It was spiritual. I don't regret, obviously, being a rabbi, but it's tiring. And less than a week later, we have another Chag, actually supposed to be the Chag, the festival. How do we get ourselves up for that? Whose idea, okay, as we always joke about, whose idea was it to put these holidays so close together? But there's a real reason for it, and it's a beautiful reason. Think about Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, we try to be like angels. We don't need food. We don't need water. We dress in white. We are reminding ourselves that we are like angels. I even mentioned that in my sermon on Yom Kippur. And yet, we're human beings. We are human beings. And yes, we can strive to be like angels, but we have to remember that we are human beings. That we have to make moral choices. That's what I discussed on Yom Kippur. But also, we're mortal. We're mortal. Angels are not. And so we have to find a way to embrace the life that we have and recognize our mortality. That's also what we do on Yom Kippur, by the way, and actually find joy in that. Be sameach b'chelko, and not always spending time pursuing riches, trying to impress others. And that's where the book of Kohelet comes in. The book of Kohelet is written or attributed to Solomon, King Solomon, but the writer, no matter who the writer is coming with an idea of affluenza, someone who's been, sort of sick with affluence, that they've done it all. They've had the gardens, they've had all of the riches, and yet they say that when you pursue riches, all you want is more riches. Money doesn't buy happiness. That's basically what he's saying. So he's saying, Havel Havelim. And yes, the translation is poor. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. No. Havel means breath. All is within a breath. That's really more the lesson. That's the Jewish lesson of Kohelet, is not that things are vanity, but that life is short. Life is short. Life is just like a breath. And so where does happiness come from in living? It's in the act of living. It's in the act of resting after labor and doing the things that humans have to do. Yes, we labor. We can also then enjoy food and drink in whatever shelter that we may have. Instead of looking at the next shelter, be sameach b'chako, happy with what we have. And yes, also, if we are graced and blessed with some wealth, if we, by going out to the Sukkah and experiencing what does it mean to be a little less wealthy, to be a little less secure, we are bound to then recognize we can't take our wealth where we're going. We're all going to the same place. And so we might as well share that wealth with others to bring joy to everybody, because that's also what we're supposed to do. And so Kohelet ends by reminding us, enjoy life, do good, be happy with what your lot is. And really that is what makes this holiday so special. This is a human holiday about enjoying humanity and recognizing that there's certainly more to life than just riches. It's being together and enjoying our breath. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.